Hello everyone and welcome back to Car Venus 14. Now today we are actually going to be taking a look at something very interesting that's happened to Arlecchino. Now obviously if you guys have been on the internet for a while looking at Arlecchino's leaks, you'll know that Arlecchino's kit was actually not just buffed or nerfed, but Arlecchino actually just got a full rework. Like, her entire kit was changed, basically. Of course, some of the foundations are still there, like, you know, the life bond of life mechanic and, you know, her elemental skill creating, like, a thing that stacks up over time. That's still there, but they've reworked a lot of the majority of her kit and how it functions and stuff like that, and in my opinion, these changes are actually really good. Of course, I am actually kind of late with these changes because there are other bigger YouTubers that have already created videos about these changes on Arlecchino, but I wanted to make a video myself just to see if you guys, well, not just to see if you guys, but I want, if someone comes across this kind of video and they're like, oh damn, okay, like this is a really good way of portraying it, because obviously, as you guys know, my videos are a lot longer. They're a lot more. I wouldn't really want to say in detailed. If anything, they're more over detailed. Like, I put too much information just to make it so that it's a bit more clearer for you guys. Yeah, because the thing is I love waffling a lot, and that's just the way that just helps me understand things a lot more. Like, if I talk to myself or talk to someone about something and just go over the same points over and over and over again, it helps it stick into that. That helps to stick in, basically, which is kind of how I actually do a lot of things in my life. Yeah. I don't need to make this about my life. I need to make this about Arlecchino. No one cares about your life, Venus. Alright? Just get on with the video. That's what you guys are saying. I know. Now, these leaks are provided by Hakushin. So, thank you very much, Hakushin. And, Hoyoverse, if you are watching this, I highly doubt it. Catch me if you can. That's all I'm going to say. Fight me. That's all I'm going to say. What are you guys going to do? You're going to bore me to death with your math calculator brain? I don't know. I'm not going to go there. Alright, guys. We'll carry on. So, at this stage of the video, guys, if you... I'm presuming you guys already know what Arlecchino's original kit was. I'm not gonna go over her original kit because that's just gonna drag on the video even longer than I already want to plan to make it. And when I say longer, I mean it's gonna be like 30 minutes longer. I know it will. So, yeah, I probably don't want to go more than 15 or 20 minutes with this video. So, yeah, I'm just going to go over Arlecchino's changes and going to go over brief impacts of, like, if this is going to affect any of her teams or any artifact sets that she's going to use and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm not going to go over specific teams or even any changes to her artifacts, as they don't really change that much. It's just an overview of what's going to happen. I've already wasted a minute right there telling how I'm going to do the video instead of actually getting... Stop it! Alright, for those who can't read the image, so this is from Not Eggs, a Redditor from Not Eggs, who basically just made it so that it's a lot easier for us to interpret the information. So thank you very much, Not Eggs. So for those who can't read the image, normal attacks. When Arlecchino has a bond of life equal to or greater than 30%, which is now moved down to 20%, guys, so you have a bigger threshold now of her max HP, this will consume 5% to now 6.5% of her current bond of life. It's a bit of a mistake here. It was 5.5% originally, and now they've changed it up to 6.5%. So... yes, it does take more current bond of life, but remember, guys, the threshold has been lowered by 10%, which means it's actually a little bit more lenient now. You do get more leeway when it comes to normal attacks now, so overall this is a buff. A bond of life can be consumed this way every 0.03 seconds to 0.05 seconds. Now, this is technically a buff because it means you use your bond of life a little bit. You use your bond of life stacks a little bit less now, which means you have a longer time. But honestly, it's a 0.2 second. It's a 0.02 second change. I don't think it changes that much, to be honest, so we'll just gloss over it. Now, guys, whenever her bond of life is consumed in this manner every 0.05 seconds, her elemental skill's cooldown will be decreased by 0.8 seconds. Now, why, you might ask? Because her elemental skill's duration basically, her cooldown just got doubled, basically. Yeah, it's gone from 15 seconds, sorry, to 30 seconds, which does seem insanely long, but we'll get onto later bits in the video on why it's not actually as bad as you would actually think. Yeah. And Mask of the Red Death, this, just to let you know, guys, is the talent level scaling at level 10. So if you didn't know, when Arlecchino's above 20% of her max HP and Bond of Life, she gets an additional multiplier on top, which was 238% at level 10. Now it's gone up to 297.5%. At that point, just make it 300%. I don't know why you gotta do us like this, but hey, it is what it is. So basically just a massive boost in damage, right? And it is insanely high. I'm unsure if this is just at talent level 10, or if the scaling for the rest of the levels are also increased as well, which most likely they probably will be, right? It makes the most amount of sense. So yeah. Now, we'll move on to her elemental skill. So, if you guys didn't know, this was her original bit. After the dash cleave, the Bond of Life will be cleared, and Nourishing Cinders will trigger, which will recover Arlecchino's HP, which is equivalent to 100% Bond of Life. That's gone away now. So Arlecchino's healing is not from her elemental skill, it's now on her elemental burst, which, to be fair, does make her a lot more burst reliant, and the reason I say that is because you can't heal from external sources. This basically ties Arlecchino to her elemental skill, and you having the perfect rotation. Not perfect, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah, it just makes her burst a little bit more, you know, of a thing that ties her down, if you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah, but that's changed now, guys. So this is now gone. This entire bit, that's just done. That's gone away. It doesn't do anything like that anymore. Blood Debt Directive has gone from every 3 seconds to every 5 seconds. So before it would stack up every 3 seconds up to 3 times. Now it stacks up every 5 seconds. But however, it will deal 1 instance of pyro damage to the opponent. That stays the same, but the maximum number of stacks now is 2. And if you guys didn't know, Arlecchino will apply 1 stack initially after she uses her elemental skill. So you only need to wait 5 seconds before you get the full level 2 stacks now, right? Which means you only need to wait 5 seconds instead of 6 seconds, which you would have beforehand, right? So like 1 second less, basically. Yeah. One thing I don't understand, guys, is 20% to 40%. I don't know what this means. I'm going to be brutally honest. Like, what does this 20% to 40% mean? I actually don't know what it does. I can't remember if this has something to do with Arlecchino's, like, the damage or something else. I'm not actually sure what 20% to 40% means. I'm going to be honest. So if any of you do know in the comment section below, do write it down, and I will pin it so that other people can see it straight away as well. Yeah. So the maximum value of Bond of Life that can be granted through Blood Debt Directive within 20 seconds has now gone up to 35 seconds. So basically, guys, what this means is Arlecchino beforehand used to be able to trigger her Bond of Life thing every 20 seconds, right? Which it basically meant that you had to wait a few seconds after using her elemental skill. Now it's like 35 seconds, which obviously doesn't seem that bad, but remember, the threshold is not going to be 5 seconds anymore, because you're lowering the cooldown of her elemental skill whenever you do a normal attack infused by her pyro, right? So the gap is actually going to be a lot bigger than you would actually think. Yeah. Whether this is going to be a hindrance to her or not, I don't actually know, but we'll have to see, really, until her gameplay actually comes out. The Blood Debt Directive damage has gone up from 38.2% at level 10 to 57.2%, so it deals a bit more damage now. Yeah, and the cooldown has gone from 15 seconds to 30 seconds. However, remember, guys, her normal attacks, will, when infused with her pyro, will decrease the cooldown by 0.8 seconds. Now, her burst. So Arlecchino's burst no longer grants her 15% Bond of Life off her max HP, alright? Now what happened is, it clears, it basically resets the cooldown of her elemental skill and heals her. The healing is based off of the Bond of Life value and attack. As for the Bond of Life value, it's 100%, what's it called? It's 100% of her Bond of Life plus 300% of her attack. So if you guys didn't know, before, Arlecchino's healing was just 100% of her Bond of Life. Then they changed it to 200% of her Bond of Life. Now, they reverted it back to 100% of her Bond of Life, but now it's 300% of her attack. Yeah. Which means if you have, like, let's say, 4,000 attack, right? Or, no, let's make it more realistic. Maybe around 3,000 more attack, right? That's effectively 9,000 extra healing, plus the 100% from the Bond of Life. Which means if you have like 25, well, let's say you have like 20,000 HP, and you're currently at 15,000 in terms of Bond of Life. It'll be 15,000 plus like 9,000 from here. Like, it's just a pretty insane amount of, healing. Yeah. And her Ascension 2 passive, before, used to give you a stacking effect, right? for the actual bond of life it would grant you. Now it just gives you 70, which means you don't actually need to wait anymore. You could just do a charge attack straight away and it should give you the thing. But it doesn't really work like that, sorry. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. I'm an idiot. What I'm trying to say is you need to wait 5 seconds in order to get the 70%. You don't need to stack it up anymore. You just wait 5 seconds and you get the 70%. That's it. Now, for Arlecchino's constellations, so Mask of the Red Death, her first constellation, in my opinion, has received the biggest change and also is now ultimately so much better than before, to the point where if you are free to play and you're considering whether to go for her weapon or for her constellation, I would highly, highly, highly recommend go for her first constellation because it's just that much better. Alright, now Mask of the Red Death is further enhanced. The value of it increases by 120%. So now, on top of the multiplier that you're getting here, guys, the, 297.5%, now you're getting an additional 120%. Now, I know what you're thinking, because I had the exact same question. Is it additive, where you just add 120%, or do you multiply it by 120%? Now, it turns out that according to a lot of the Redditors and people that are actually on here, I have seen a lot of comments saying that it's actually it's actually an additive, which means it goes from 297% to 397% instead of being 297% multiplied by 1.2, right? Yeah, which is a lot better, right? Yeah, and I'll tell you what the difference is. If you multiply by 120%, your multiplier will go up to 360%. If you're adding it, it's going to go up to 420%. A 60% increase or difference. That's how ridiculous it is. Yeah. And that's just the first part. The best part, arguably, is yet to come. Additionally, Arlecchino's interruption resistance is increased when she performs normal attacks while affected by Mask of the Red Death. So basically, when Arlecchino's normal attacks are infused with her pyro, she gains interruption resistance. Yeah. How much, we don't actually know, but if it's like interruption resistance from other characters, like Nouvellette C1 and, Raiden Shogun's invulnerability and immunity to electrocharged, it's basically like that. Which means Arlecchino, as long as her pyro is up, will not get knocked back at all. Which means her combos and stuff like that are going to be so much smoother and make her a lot more comfortable to play. She will still take damage, of course. However, her, she won't get knocked back anymore, right? Which is really, really nice. Now, this is her C2. This was her old C2, right? Which I'm not going to go over. But her new C2 is basically blood debt directives are now already, blood debt due when first applied. So what this basically means, guys, is normally you would have to use your elemental skill, wait 5 seconds in order to get the maximum number, the full 70%, and, the level 2 stack, basically, then do a charge attack. With C2 Arlecchino, you no longer need to wait. It gives you the maximum stack straight away. So elemental skill, and instead of waiting 5 seconds, you get it straight away, which means before, you'd have to do elemental skill, your supports, and then you'd have to come back to Arlecchino and then do a charged attack. Now you can do elemental skill, and then a charged attack, and then you can go on to Arlecchino's, supports and do some normal attacks afterwards, right? Which makes it so much more efficient to play her. Yeah. So when Arlecchino absorbs such a due or her level 2 maximum stacks, she unleashes the Bale Moon Bloodfire in front of her, dealing 900% of her attack as AoE pyro damage. That's still the same, right, guys? This effect can trigger once every 10 seconds, and you must first unlock her passive, Agony Alone May Be Repaid, which I believe is her first Ascension passive, if I remember correctly. No, it's her second one. It's literally the one we've talked about here, yeah. Which is really, really good. So basically it just means you can do Arlecchino's charge attack straight away. And yeah, you will have to wait, right, 10 seconds, right? But remember, the way this passive is supposed to work around is supposed to work around her ultimate. So here's what you would do, right? Elemental skill, charge attack, support rotation, alright? Then maybe do a few normal attacks, and then go back to her burst, clear the, clear the actual, blood debt directive, then use her elemental skill, and then, provided the rotation is dragged out long enough, that should be a full 10 seconds, and then you do a charge attack again and reset the entire thing. That's how it's supposed to work, guys. Yeah. And then her C3 and C5 haven't actually changed at all. They are still the same. So we're not going to go over that. But this is Arlecchino's new C4. When Arlecchino successfully absorbs a Blood Debt Directive, Bale Moon Rising's cooldown will be decreased by 2 seconds and 15 energy will be restored to her, and it can occur once every 10 seconds. What this basically means, guys, is whenever Arlecchino does her elemental skill and then does a charge attack, her burst cooldown is going to go down by 2 seconds, and her energy, she's going to instantly get 15 energy, which is really good. So what that means is, if your burst has like a 15-second cooldown, and you do the charge attack with the, with the stack, it goes down to 13. If it's at 10, it'll go down to 8. At 3, it'll go down to 1. Stuff like that, basically. Yeah. And this effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So very similar kind of rotation you want to do with her C2. And then as for her C6, if you guys didn't know, Arlecchino's C6 basically makes it so that, what is it? Arlecchino's, is it her elemental skill? I'd like to say it's her elemental skill, if I remember correctly. So, if you guys didn't know, Arlecchino's elemental skill obviously has 2 parts to it. You've got the single target dash that it does to an opponent. Think of it a bit like, Kaching or Alhaitham or Chiori's elemental skill dash. Like, it's a dash forward, basically, right? Except Arlecchino's, you can't hold it down, and it goes a lot further compared to those guys when you just press it, right? Yeah. Think of it like that, except, it does another instance of damage, which is the AoE. So it's got the single target cleave, right, that it does, like the dash cleave that it does, and then you've got the AoE pyro damage that it does. If you guys have seen the gameplay, it's, the little, the needle pyro spike things coming out of the ground. That's the AoE, and the dash is basically when Arlecchino vanishes and dashes forward. That's what it is, basically. If you guys have seen the gameplay, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, it's that, basically. Now, this is just the dash bit. It's not the actual elemental skill bit, like the pyro needle bit. It's just the initial vanishing dash bit, right? Yeah. So it used to be 500% of her Arlecchino's Bond of Life before. Now it's 700% of her Bond of Life. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, not her Bond of Life. It scales off her Bond of Life and her attack. So it was 500% of her attack before. Now it's 700% of her attack. And yes, the crit rate and the crit damage, they are still there. So after Arlecchino does her elemental skill, right, she will gain an elemental, she'll basically gain increased crit rate and increased crit damage on her elemental, her elemental burst as well as her normal attacks. The crit rate increases 10% and the crit damage increases a whopping 70%. Yeah, it's insane. 3 energy and 1 cooldown is probably a typo. Oh, okay, that was probably something else. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, guys, that's basically the changes, and as far as I can tell, a lot of people are still trying to figure out what the hell her new kit actually means. However... Oh, okay, fair enough. However, it basically makes... Her new kit is a lot more... Two things from this. Two things that you can take away from this. Number 1, her damage potential now is a lot higher than it used to be. And number 2, she's a lot more convenient, should I say, to play. I wouldn't say she's more easier, personally, but she's definitely a lot more convenient to play, right? If that makes sense. Yeah, now in terms of artifacts, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. Her best in slot artifact is the new one coming out in 4.6, which is still her best in slot. And obviously you can use other sets like Crimson Witch of Flames if you're going for a reaction team. You can go for Gilded Dreams, which is pretty decent from what I've heard for like a vaporized team as well. You can also go Gladiator's Finale, which is like one of the most consistent best 4 pieces that you can really go, and probably the best free-to-play option, because it's actually pretty easy to get. It's easy and difficult to get at the exact same time. It's odd, but you should have a lot of pieces of them to get anyway. So, yeah. In terms of her weapons, nothing has changed there either. Her signature weapon is still her best in slot, but would I recommend getting her signature weapon over her C1 now? No. I would not. If you want to go for Arlecchino's weapon simply because it's a scythe and it looks cool, I honestly would genuinely be like, okay, you know what? This person is an absolute Chad. He does not care about meta. He's going for aesthetics. And yeah, it's a scythe. So, yes. But I would probably be more inclined to pulling for the weapon banner for the weapon if the weapon banners weren't so friggin' rigged, but, Ayo, it is what it is. Yeah, so, at the end of the day, guys, what I'm trying to say is, if you're going for if you're confused on whether to go for Arlecchino C1 or R1, C1 all the way. If you want her weapon instead, because Scythe, all the way, just go for the Scythe, because it's a Scythe, right? Just go for it. But if you are unsure, her C1 is miles above in terms of actual improvement compared to her signature weapon now, right? Yeah, it's honestly insane. Now, as for Arlecchino's teams, honestly, a lot of people are saying now that Arlecchino is not as Bennett reliant. Now, in my opinion, she never was Bennett reliant in the first place. Bennett was a nice person to have for Arlecchino because he would give attack. And Arlecchino's entire kit, including her Bond of Life and her passives, not her Bond of Life, sorry, but like the damage, including with her Bond of Life and her passives, all rotated around her attack percent. And the scalings were ludicrously high, which is why Bennett was a really good unit. I wouldn't say Arlecchino was Bennett reliant. She honestly wasn't. The reason people said that was because Bennett was such a great unit paired with Arlecchino because her rotations were a lot shorter. Now, however, her rotations are a bit longer, right? So because of that, there are people saying that overload teams like Fischl and Yaimiko with Chevrus and Arlecchino are really, really good now because it's just a lot of on-field damage that you can have for a lot longer now. So, yes, in that regard, her overload team has become a bit more comfortable to play. Probably a lot more comfortable to play, to be honest. Yeah. But have her teams changed that much? I don't really think so. At least from the YouTubers that I've seen are saying that her teams have not really changed that much. It's just that her playstyle has gotten a little bit more comfortable and she's not as Bennett reliant, which, to be fair, I do kind of agree with them, especially after taking a proper look at Arlecchino's kit and, you know, actually taking a look at other characters' kit and if they synergize quite well with Arlecchino. She definitely does pair a lot better now with characters like Yelan, because Yelan's buff is also quite long. It's like 15 or 18 seconds. Yaimiko, Fischl, and even Chevrus are also really, really strong with her. So more shorter duration burst supports like Zhang Ling and Bennett aren't really, I wouldn't say aren't that good on her anymore. I would just say not her best options anymore. Like, what I'm trying to say is Zhang Ling and Bennett, they do buff Arlecchino, but the buff is like for a shorter duration. Like, if you have C6 Arlecchino or C4, if you have C4 Zhang Ling, her burst has a 14-second duration, right? Which is decently long, and Bennett's is 12 seconds, but it's on the shorter end of buffing compared to units like Fischl, Yaimiko, Beidou. Actually, no, Beidou's a pretty short character. Beidou's kind of okay. Beidou's mid, I guess. Yeah, I mean, her Beidou aesthetic-wise is top tier, but like her actual like duration, I mean, how long can she last? It's kind of mid. She probably lasts for a lot longer, let's be honest. I mean, the physical prowess to completely defeat that woman is insane. The lot of you will catch my drift train. I trust you, alright? You're of that age, so it would make sense to you. But, yeah, what I'm trying to say is Beidou's pretty mid in terms of the duration for her burst. I need to make this sound kid-friendly. Her ultimate lasts a decent amount of time, that's it. No, my mind is still twisting that. Never mind, guys, we move on. What I'm trying to say is, she becomes a lot better paired with units that have a longer supportive off-field thing. Yaimiko's, you know, friggin' nuclear turrets. Fischl's Bird, Oz. Manthis Wine. Sorry, Wizard of Oz, that's it, yeah. Great movie, by the way, all the versions of them. The 1939 version, the 60s version, the 90s, the noughties version. Yeah, all of them are great. But anyway, yeah, and Chevrus's buff is like a long, long time. I swear it's like 40 seconds or something ludicrous like that. But yeah. Anyway, guys, what do we have to take away from this 30-minute long video that I've already wasted by making in, you know, jokes and waffling about my life? Number one, Arlecchino has definitely gotten stronger. Number two, she's gotten more convenient to play as. Number three, she's become available. She's a lot more comfortable to use with off-field, you know, supports, right? Yeah, like off-field supports, right? Yeah, and is she less Bennett reliant? She's never been Bennett reliant in the first place, in my opinion. And number two, Bennett is still good with her, right? It's just that he won't buff her for as much as he normally would have beforehand. Is that a problem? No. Because if you are fast enough, right, especially with Arlecchino's increased damage, at least in the overworld, you should be insta-killing, like, literally everything. It's only Domains and Spiral Abyss where she's going to take a little bit longer. But if you're an overworld casual player like me, who hasn't even touched Spiral Abyss in, like, since the beginning, I mean, I did touch, I went to floor 8 because permanent rewards, but floors 9 to 12, I can't be asked for resetting rewards. What the hell are you on? Meta? No. I'm a meat over meta player, alright? You guys know what meat means. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, guys, that's basically it. I have been Carvenus14 and Salam, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.